One of the common reactions people have in objecting to Stoicism is to say, wow, that seems really extreme and maybe even unnatural. That it's something not only that I don't know if I could possibly do it, but maybe even we shouldn't do it because there's something sacred about the emotions or sacred about a particular part of human experience. But what I want to show you is that Meister Eckhart has a particularly brilliant answer to this, and it occurs in a Christmas sermon of all places. So let's take a look at the original that you're probably familiar with Epictetus. Epictetus says, with regard to whatever objects give you delight, are useful, or are deeply loved, remember to tell yourself of what general nature they are, beginning from the most insignificant things. If, for example, you're fond of a specific ceramic cup, remind yourself that it is only in ceramic cups in general of which you are fond. Then, if it breaks, you will not be disturbed. And that's, okay, it's a cup. But he goes on. If you kiss your child or your wife, say that you only kiss things which are human, and thus you will not be disturbed if either of them dies. So the cups, maybe I just like cups, or, I like the fact that my kitchen is well lit and it looks nice, but if a light bulb breaks, it's not the light bulb that I liked, it was the light. But wow, extending that to a child or a wife, that is a degree to which most people are not willing to go. And that's when people stop and say, that just seems unnatural. Is it the case that what Stoicism is prescribing is actually unnatural? And here is a response to something very similar to this from Meister Eckhart in sermon number 101, which is his first Christmas sermon. But now you might say, but good sir, you want to change the natural course of the soul and go against her nature. Do you see what's going on there? It is her nature to take things in through senses and images. Would you upset this ordering? And Eckhart answers, no. But how do you know what nobility God has bestowed on human nature, not yet fully described and still unrevealed? In other words, there are parts of the soul that you don't know anything about. We haven't plumbed her depths. So how can you know all of what God has put there? Well, this doesn't have to be, of course, just in a Christian context. The idea here is, how much do you know about yourself? How much do you really know about yourself? When you say that something is unnatural, oftentimes we're reacting and saying, well, that goes against what it is that I feel to be natural, what it is that I feel to be mine. In other words, it goes against a sense that I have. Well, if that sense is just the province of acculturation, of maybe instinct, or of desire, or of a variety of other things that I really had nothing to do with, I wasn't responsible for the culture I was born into. I wasn't responsible for the mind that I was given upon birth. I wasn't responsible for a lot of other things. The desires that arise from one moment to the next. My reactions to things, especially for the Stoics, reactions to things in the external world that I have no control over. That's not really mine either. And so if I recognize that I have no control over the external things, and that even the internal states are not necessarily properly mine, in other words, they don't have to be something sacred that I defend as though my individuality was something that, I have to defend this against all possible attack, which is oftentimes, unfortunately, in the West, the way that we view the ego. If we see that that's not really a part of us, that, I like chocolate chip cookies. I love the smell of fresh baked cookies, but I didn't have anything to do with that. I find it beautiful, but it's just always kind of been that way. And for anything, even things that we, come to regard as beautiful, well, I didn't have anything to do with that either. And so it's that portion of detachment. In other words, the Stoics are recommending a kind of detachment that is actually very familiar to someone like Eckhart. And now, so if you read the piece from Eckhart and you juxtapose that with Epictetus, you might say, okay, well, this doesn't seem like it's exactly the same thing. And the reason for this is that what Eckhart is doing is in the context of the sermon where he's talking about the natural order of things in receiving images from the external world. In other words, we receive a likeness from outside. We receive something from outside and then we process using those images. And so when we're cogitating on something, reacting to something, dealing with something, then we are dealing with the images rather than the thing necessarily in itself. This is or 500 years before Kant, by the way. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that. But anyway, I think this is a particularly brilliant answer to the Stoic objection that people have to Stoicism in saying that Stoicism is somehow unnatural. So Eckhart and like-minded people might respond and say, you know what? Maybe there are just elements of your soul that you don't know anything about. Maybe there are depths of your personality that you've not yet explored. And so how can you ultimately know what is natural without fully knowing yourself? Just a hint.